Oh, wow. Hey, much love and respect. Thanks for tuning in. Today, guys, we'll be waking up with analog. Yeah. We're in this Good Brothers Twitter page. It's named Waking Up with Analog. And today, what we're going to be doing is going over the research and information that he has shared here on Twitter. Great, great information. A lot of incredible findings here in old newspapers from USA. A lot of incredible stories and reports. A lot of unbelievable, strange findings here in America. More correlation and proof that this is the true old world. A lot of these old newspapers were reporting what they were finding. You know, the people reporting this stuff. And they were writing it down just like they were finding it. There are so many newspaper reports, strange, controversial stories that a lot of people would probably try to deny right away. But a lot of these things are just people reporting what they saw with no agendas, no conspiracies, just a simple news report, just like we see the news today, without all the censorship and without the experts giving their opinions, right? So-called experts, and denying what is being found. So we're gonna get into this brother's page. We're gonna read all these incredible newspaper reports, old ones. We're gonna read these with fresh eyes, with the knowledge that we have already learned in this channel, knowing this is the true old world. Again, this is just gonna be more and more correlation. Some incredible findings here. So thanks again to the brother Waking Up with Analog for doing this hard work in the background and sharing all this with us. I think you guys are gonna enjoy all these incredible newspaper reports. I know I did. So let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna go from most recent to the oldest, all right? Again, twitter.com, Waking Up with Analog. Make sure you follow the brother and support what he's doing. One of his most recent posts here says it's a flashback, something he's reposting. Berkeley, built upon city of Stone Age, massive stone walls, antedates Columbus. All right, it says here, buried city under Berkeley, California University said to occupy site of a town of Stone Age. Berkeley, California, May 25th, buried a few feet under the campus of the University of California lies a city of the Stone Age, whose massive walls respond to the instruments of the members of the Berkeley Society for Physical Research and show their well-defined locations. According to the investigation made by Professor Joseph Beryl, president of the local Psychical Society and other members, the series of investigations to find the lines of the buried city, which antedates by thousands of years, the time of Columbus, it is said, have been carried on quietly for the last few months since the society took up this branch of its studies. None of the professors of the university has yet thoroughly investigated the finds of this society, but it is likely that if their discoveries are found to have a foundation, excavation will begin at once along scientific lines, all right? A whole Stone Age city under Berkeley University in California, all right? That's deep right there. It continues, says here, Kentucky Prehistoric City, Ohio, 1875. Owner of farm, plowing up land, discovered the ruins of a city of regular streets, curved with stone. Higher order of architecture and knowledge, and greater civilization than any yet found in this country. All right, so let's read the report. It says here, Mr. Greenbotts, the owner of a farm at Peeled Oak on Slate Creek, a noted section of Bath County, and plowing up about 60 acres of level land this spring, discovered the ruins of a city of regular streets, curved with stone, and evincing a higher order of architectural knowledge and a greater civilization than any other prehistoric remains yet found in this country. Many years ago, a faint trace of a similar city was noticed in Montgomery County near Mount Sterling, but the owners of the land, having little taste for backward researches, almost or entirely obliterated the evidences to make room for corn growing. You hear that? This being a fresh discovery, we have no doubt it will be visited by Professor Shaler and the archaeologists and the prehistorians of the country at large. All right, that's the report there again. Ancient city, right? Prehistoric city here in Kentucky with a high order of architectural knowledge. A pygmy graveyard in Tennessee, 1876. 6 acres in the graveyard, buried sitting or standing. A dwarf race of people, about 3 feet high, estimated 75,000 to 100,000 buried there. Again, you hear this, guys? What pygmy people who are 3 to 4 feet high? How many are buried there? 75 to 100,000. This things they never told us, and this is gonna go great with a future series I got on the little people or the pygmies of the world. All right, that's gonna be a great series. Got a great book that I found and I'm reading. Let's read this report. It says, an ancient graveyard of vast proportions hath been found in Coffee County. It is similar to those found in White County and other places in Tennessee, but it is vastly more extensive and shows that the race of pygmies who once inhabited this country were very numerous. All right? The same peculiarities of position observed in the White County graves are found in these. The writer of the letter says, some considerable excitement and curiosity took place a few days since near Hillsborough, Coffee County, or James Brown's farm. A man was plowing in a field which has been cultivated many years, plowing up a man's skull and other bones. After making a further examination, they found that there were about 6 acres in the graveyard. They were buried in a sitting or standing position. Their bones show that they were a dwarf race of people, about 3 feet high. It is estimated that there were about 75,000 to 100,000 buried there. All right, pygmies and Tennessee. Again, future series. All right, pygmies are not just from Africa or the Bushmen from Africa. You gotta dodge the hijack. But great report here, as you guys can see. This was reported in a newspaper, 1876. Moving on, it says most historic, Alaska, 1926. Writings recorded Norse expedition through the Northwest in 1010, the years 1010. You hear that? Norse, who's the Norse? The Danes, Danites, Vikings? It says here, most historic, Stephenson believes, find antedates Indians in Northwest. It says here, Spokane, Washington, November 22nd. Arctic explorer Stephenson, who was here on a lecture tour, pronounced the rock writings near Spokane not runic, but made by a prehistoric race, antedating the Indians thousands of years. It's not even runic, it's even older than that, they're saying. Professor Oluf Opsjon last summer said the writing recorded the Norse expedition through the Northwest in 1010. You hear that? That's what it's recording. They found that. Stephenson said the markings are not similar to the runics as I know. All right, so it keeps going. That's the clip we got. As you guys can see, they found, so you see what they found in Alaska, and it was reported in 1926. Continuing, it says here, runic inscriptions from 1051. All right, so more correlation near Great Falls in Potomac, Virginia. All right, so now we're in Virginia. It says the Constitutional Union of Washington City reports that a runic inscription has been discovered near the Great Falls in the Potomac, that it records the death of an Icelandic woman named Suasu, who died in 1051. All right, 1051. Listen, that the discovery proves the visit of the Northmen to our shores 5 centuries before the time of Columbus, and that they made explorations in land. It is also stated that the fragments of teeth, bronze trinkets, coins, and other curious things have been exhumed from the grave. All right, more correlation of possible Norsemen, Danites, Vikings over here. But who are the Vikings really? The 6 kings? Could it be Danites mostly, mixed with a little bit of the Sumerians, the Gauls, becoming known as the Danes? And could these people have originally been coming out of the true old world, the true promised land? We move on to the next report. It says here, the prehistoric age, Kentucky, 1876. Discovered a sinkhole. Proceeded to explore it. Emerged into a large picturesque gallery. Rivaled that of the old Mammoth itself. 5 galleries, strange characters for hieroglyphics, neatly carved into the wall. Alright, so let's read it. It says the prehistoric age, discovery of another Mammoth Cave near Columbia, Kentucky. 3 human skeletons of extraordinary proportions found in a subterraneous vault, meaning they found giants. All right, a curious narrative says here, says about the middle of the past week, 2 young men named White, while idly wandering in a large tract of wild, dense forest in the southeastern part of our country, discovered what they supposed to be a sinkhole or fox den, and with that idea proceeded to explore it. After a little trouble in making their way through the entrance, the cave, for such it proved to be, became large enough to admit of their walking upright. They had proceeded thus in this passage probably 150 yards, when they emerged into a large and picturesque gallery, the beauty and grandeur of which will rival that of old Mammoth itself. The room, according to their calculations, is about 150 by 100 feet and abounds in all varieties of the stalactites and stalagmites, but is not the things that we naturally expect to find in caves that I wish to mention particularly, but the curious remains that were discovered therein. In the northeast corner of the first gallery, for there are 5, of which I will hereafter speak, about 5 feet from the ground, they noticed some strange characters or hieroglyphics neatly carved in the wall. Moving on, it says here, the head rock of a vault, loosened and disclosed the interior of an enclosure in the solid rock, which contained 3 human skeletons which measure 8 feet. Heads towards the east, lying next to them, 3 huge swords. Oh, wow, interesting. Says your examination proved to be the head rock of a vault. A few minutes prising served to loosen this and disclose to view the interior of an enclosure in the solid rock of about 5 by 10 feet, which contained the remains of 3 human skeletons, which measure 8 feet 7.5 inches, 8 feet 5 inches, and 8 feet 4.75 inches in length, respectively. All right, so all 3 of these people were over 8 feet. The heads were laying towards the east, all right, towards the east, each body parallel to the other. Beside them lay 3 huge, what looks to be swords, all right, 3 swords, but were so decayed that upon being touched, immediately crumbled to dust. Oh man, how old was this? How old are these people and these swords? Wow, giants with swords found, right? After examining the remains closely, but finding nothing that would serve to throw any light on the question as to who and from whence they are, they closed the vault, but in doing so knocked their torch out, which they had contrived before entering, leaving them in anything but a pleasant predicament. After searching some time for their lost treasure, they concluded to try to escape by feeling their way out, but in this they made the matter worse. They stated that after leaving the first large room, they stuck a good-sized branch and continued following until forced to turn into another passage. All right, so they keep going, the report, but that was very interesting. Again, 3 giants with swords, all right, with swords found here. All right, moving on. It says here, the Great Wall of China. I mean, the Great Wall of Tartaria. I mean, the Great Wall of Mississippi. Says here, Mississippi's Great Wall. An interesting prehistoric work, the origin of which is a mystery. One of the scientific puzzles of the state of Mississippi is the Brandywine Stone Wall. It has long been a problem that is yet unsolved. Some time ago, Mr. Thomas Watson of Hazelhurst sent Governor Longino a pencil drawing of an immense pile of stones in the southeastern portion of Claiborne County, suggesting that the stone might be utilized in building the new Capitol. In a letter which accompanied the drawing, Mr. Watson stated that these stones, piled high on each other, cover an area 4 miles square. Each stone is 6 feet long, 3 feet wide, and 2 feet thick, and they are joined together with an excellent quality of cement. No man knows how they came there. They may have been there for thousands of years. The builders, the Jackson News thinks, were some prehistoric race. It could not be otherwise. This structure is supposed to be a continuation of the Great Chinese Wall. Listen, this is supposed to be a what? Continuation of the Great Wall of China? All the way in Mississippi? Which seems to begin below Raymond in the southern part of Hinds County, and which is traceable through Copaya. All right, this is how long this wall is. Listen up. It is broad enough to accommodate 2 or 3 wagons abreast and is one of the wonders of the world. One of the wonders of the world. Mention of this remarkable exhibit, says the Hasselhurst Courier, has elicited no little comment. In fact, has brought a letter to Mr. Watson from the warden of the United States Penitentiary at Leavenworth, Kansas, and also a letter to Dr. T.B. Birdsong from another distinguished source. It being known that the latter some years ago investigated the matter. Mr. Watson, however, says the Courier, has given the subject more patient thought and gone over the ground more thoroughly than anyone else, and to him the Courier is indebted for the following facts. He calls it the Brandywine Stone Wall, and says this wonderful and massive structure or parts of structure of masonry done in stone, which have withstood the ravages of time for perhaps many thousands of years, listen, still stand, an enduring relic of a prehistoric civilization and knowledge of the art of building, not inferior in many respects to the present day. These stone buildings lie for the most part buried in the earth in the southeastern portion of Claiborne County and lying against the Copaya County line on the slopes overlooking the valley of the Brandywine Creek from the west side. Wow. A wall, a long, thick, megalithic wall buried in Mississippi. They're saying it connects to the Great Wall of China. I don't know how they know that, but very interesting report here. As you guys can see, Mississippi's Great Wall. Again, continuing, it says here, the Mound Builders, Wisconsin, 1875. The Great Wall of Mississippi, Brandywine continued. The bottom never found. Large forest trees, several hundred years old, growing on top. 400 square miles. So you understand what he just said? They found an archaeological wall, and they found trees growing on top of that wall. Very large trees, meaning that wall is very ancient. Let's get to the report. It says here, the Mound Builders. Traces of their work in Mississippi. Remarkable prehistoric discovery. Professor James R. Gage of Washington City, an eminent geologist and mineralogist who has recently been engaged in making extensive explorations regarding the works of the ancient mound builders, reports the discovery of a very remarkable wall in Claiborne County, 18 miles east of Port Gibson, Mississippi. The discovery has been incidentally mentioned in several papers within the course of a few days, but they do not appear to have realized a tithe of its antiquarian and archaeological interest and importance. We condemn the particulars of the discovery from the professor's statement in the Washington Republican. It appears that blocks of the stone have been taken by the farmers for building purposes for many years, and it has formed a general quarry for furnishing large blocks of stone. So they were finding this megalithic wall, these stones, and they were using it to build other things. They weren't reporting it. But the farmers have never, it seems, been aware of the antiquarian importance of this wall, which is claimed to be coeval or anterior to that of Hadrian's famous wall in England. Professor Gage employed laborers and uncovered a portion of the wall 20 feet in width and 175 feet in length. But on removing the soil here and there, he traced it 600 feet. The workmen uncovered the wall to a depth of 6 feet, but lower than this, the excavations were not continued. Large forest trees of pine and oak, several hundred years old, are grown on top of the wall. Again, large forest trees of pine and oak, they're very old trees, right? Several hundred years old are grown on top of the wall. How old is this wall then? The blocks are limestone and belong to the Tertiary Formation. They were hewn out of this formation and are 3 feet in length, 20 inches in width, and 22 inches in thickness. One of these blocks has been shipped to Philadelphia for the centennial. Oh, so they sent one of these stones to their world fairs? The wall from which it was taken forms two sides of a rectangular, one part running east and west, and the other north and south. The excavations were made near the angle. 3 miles due south from this point, another portion of the wall reappears on the banks of Bayou Pierce, owing to the washing out of the creek, making it a large exposure, and it is therefore judged that this is a continuation of the ancient wall. The wall was built on the side of a ridge overlooking a swamp, which in ancient times was evidently the bed of a lake. And the inference is that the wall was erected by the ancient occupants as a barrier against an enemy, or possibly as an ancient levee or dike erected for the protection of the inhabitants against the encroachments of the lake or the waters of the Mississippi. Are you guys listening to this history that we were never taught? From other evidences of the wide extent of this wall, as described by Professor Gage, it appears that it included a large area of land, covering probably 400 square miles. All right, this is big, and extending to the Mississippi River. The locality where the wall exists in the neighborhood of the Natchez Indians, all right, the Natchez, who were found in the state of considerable civilization when they first visited by the French. And these remains, it is conjectured by Professor Gage, had some connection with the occupation by the warlike ancestors of this interesting and famous tribe. All right, you guys hear this? They didn't teach us none of this in school. They don't even bring it up at all. It didn't fit their history. Remember, Manifest Destiny, if it's considered pre-Columbian, it wasn't considered historic. It was savage. All right, continuing here, waking up with analog Twitter page. Says here, astounding discoveries, Maryland, 1869. What does it say? Remains dating back to the founding of the Assyrian Empire. At this point, the wonders begin. Tunnel under the Mississippi, all the way to Illinois shore. Blast of powder, opening into an unknown subterranean passage. Astounding discoveries. Prehistoric remains dating back to the founding of the Assyrian Empire, 44 centuries before Christ. It is generally known in this country and in scientific circles in Europe that the gigantic undertaking of bridging the Mississippi River at this point has been already begun, and that for more than a year, when the stage of the river would permit the sound of ponderous machinery has ceased, not day nor night. But the work of excavation has been going on until the solid rock has been reached for the foundation of the piers upon the western shore. One of the piers is already above low water mark, a triumph of mechanical skill. The blocks of stone of which it is built are huge as those of the pyramids, and yet by the application of original principles of mechanical and engineering skills, these gigantic blocks are moved as easily as the common foundation stones of our dwellings. The outer pier is not yet begun, the excavations therefore not being quite completed. At this point, the wonders begin, the end of which is not yet. What effect the discovery of this tunnel under the river, a tunnel under the river, may have upon the location of the bridge, the Board of Engineers will soon determine. About 4:30 p.m. yesterday, the workmen engaged in blasting the rocks in the bottom of the excavation for the foundation of this pier discharged an extraordinary large blast of powder when immediately after the port of strange phenomenon presented itself. Instead of having to wait the usual time for the smoke to clear away, they saw it ascend rapidly in a column as though issuing from the smokestack of one of our steamers. This soon cleared, and it was found that a steady amount of air with a strange damp odor was issuing from the cavernous excavation. You hear that? They made a blast, and that hole it left behind is in that cave. This air, this odor, this old damp air was coming out of it, showing that an opening had been made into some unknown subterranean passage. Upon descending to the bottom, the usual mud and water had disappeared through a dark, deep opening in the rock about 10 feet in diameter, made by the last discharge of powder. Ropes, ladders, and torches were immediately procured and careful explorations begun. We cannot now enter into detailed description, but having been invited to accompany the Board of Engineers with a delegation from the Academy of Science and Historical Society, we must reserve a full exposition of this wonderful discovery, and we shall have made a more careful survey. Suffice it for the present to say it is certain that it passes entirely under the river to the Illinois shore, and whether it is wholly the work of some ancient race who once inhabited this land, and that's where it stops right there, all right, unfortunately. But again, they found a whole tunnel dating back, they're saying, at least to the Assyrian Empire, under the Mississippi, these megalithic blocks there, this subterranean passage with this odor, damp air that was stuck under there. Amazing findings. We continue. It says here, passages on the north side extends to the Great Mound, now being removed by the Missouri Railroad. Monk's Mound, an enormous chain of mounds from river to bluffs, 9 miles. Tunnel under river and mounds connected. All right, that tunnel, look at that tunnel that was going under the Mississippi in the previous report, look, it's connecting to all the mounds. This is amazing. Opening in mounds to subterranean highways connecting the mounds, going even under the Mississippi River. Let's read this. It says here, one of the passages opening on the north side seemed to follow the course of the river, and it is believed extends to the Great Mound, now being removed by the North Missouri Railroad. Listen, the destroying mounds. We already got the report of all this, right? We did a whole video on this, right? They were destroying these mounds. These mounds were connected by subterranean tunnels. So again, to build their railroads, they were destroying a lot of these mounds, which was the theme of much interesting remark at the last meeting of the Historical Society. To those who have not seen, the mound is around St. Louis. It may be necessary to say that the mound known as the Big Mound is about 1 mile above the Great Bridge now being built. The mound known as Monk's Mound is on the other side of the river and is but one of a continuous chain of mounds extended from the river to the bluffs, a distance of 9 miles. All right, so again, Big Mound, we did the whole video, how they destroyed it and everything, how majestic and big it was. You know, this is right across the river from Cahokia, you know, not too far from Cahokia. Again, the true Tamari or ancient Egypt. This is what we're talking about right here, where the Mississippi is the Nile. And I look at all these subterranean tunnels now connecting. Look at all this stuff they're finding in the Americas. I just want you guys to see this is amazing information. This is amazing reports and newspaper articles archived. This brother does great research, finding all these articles and posting them on his Twitter page for all of us to see. So I wanted again to share this. This is amazing. Now let's continue. It says, it is conjectured that the tunnel under the river and the mounds are intimately connected, and that there was in ancient times an opening through the mounds from this subterranean highway. Again, and there was in ancient times an opening through the mounds from this subterranean highway. This reminds me so much of the ant people story and how ants literally make mounds, right? Ants make mounds, they live underground. And, you know, there is the stories, the myth of the ant people and how a lot of our stories of our ancestors about living underground. This is all making sense to me. Of course, every scientific man is in a perfect fever of excitement at these grand discoveries, which seem so full of promise to archaeological and ethnological inquiries after truth. It will be remembered by our citizens that some few months since an examination amongst Mount was made under the auspices of some Eastern scientific society, and during the excavation there were frequent excavations of disagreeable gases and odors. Oh, it's all right. You see this air trapped down there is old, old. Yet we will not speculate, but wait in almost breathless suspense for future development. All right, so this is so deep, connecting with the research we've done with Big Mound and all these mounds and ancient cities along the Nile, going up all the way to the Ohio and even higher to the Great Lakes. You know, the whole whale culture and all that. So it's amazing. Who knows? Who's to say there isn't subterranean tunnels connecting all these ancient sites, even all the way to the west, right? California and all that. Continuing, it says here, Prehistoric South Dakota, MO 1894. Prehistoric South Dakota, antiquarians are excited over the discovery of a tomb in Egan, South Dakota, containing the skeletons of 22 men whose height averaged 8 feet. Again, more giants, 8 feet tall. The tomb also had a rude altar and several bronze utensils. All right, they found 20 giants, South Dakota. And we continue. It says here, came to a flight of 41 steps, another chamber of wonders. The walls sculptured in a bas reliefs and runic inscriptions. Translations, Ahasuerus' crowning of Queen Elizabeth. Another, Luke, Deuteronomy, and friend going into captivity. All right? What does all that mean? Let's read. So it says here, passing through its pilastered hall above described, we observed a descending opening about 7 feet high by 3 feet wide. Following this in its windings, about 50 yards, we came to a flight of 41 steps, ascending which we found ourselves in another chamber of wonders. Oval in shape, about 7 feet long, 20 feet high, and 3 feet wide, the walls of this last chamber were sculptured in magnificent bas relief and runic inscriptions. Professor Bacchio, the learned sanchrist of the university, who was with us, has taken upon himself the task of translating the inscriptions. On the meaning of some of the words and the colossal sculptures, he already speaks very confidently. One of the magnificent groups he is certain is intended to represent Ahasuerus crowning Queen Elizabeth, and another group of colossal figures representing emptives following the car of a victorious conqueror are portraits of Luke, Deuteronomy, and the friend going into captivity. This remarkable discovery, following so quickly the one at Rock Island, will awaken the intensest interest throughout the world. All right, it was supposed to interest the whole world what they were finding here in America. Do you see what they're finding here? It is very desirable that the savants into whose hands the rich treasure of the Rock Island discovery has fallen will send representatives here so that we may compare notes, for it is possible that both these wonders and those discovered here were the works of same ancient people. All right, and guess what? We never heard about this. Professor Bacchio. All right, we never heard of none of these discoveries. All right, continuing here, it says ancient pyramid found beneath Wisconsin Lake, Minnesota, 1938. It says here, ancient pyramid found beneath Wisconsin Lake. A 1,000-year-old pyramid lies on the waters of Rock Lake. All right, a 1,000-year-old pyramid in Rock Lake, Wisconsin. It is a vestige of an early Aztec civilization. Aztec, huh? In the upper Mississippi Valley. Do they mean the Mexica, the original Mexica that went down into Mexico? For 30 years, the legend of the strange prehistoric pyramid has persisted in Wisconsin. Ever since the day when, with water levels at an unprecedented low, a fisherman struck with his oar an unusual rock and came home with an incredible tale of an Indian pyramid under the water. Then a Milwaukee diver heard the tale. First, he tried to locate the pile by sighting it from an airplane. Then he tried a hydroscope and a moving boat. Finally, he developed a drag that was pulled along 14 feet below the surface of the lake. With this, the pyramid was found. Afterwards, the diver went down to study his find. So real quick, I thought it was very interesting. I started looking into, Rock Lake and see what the stories are there. And this is Rock Lake, Wisconsin. It's located in central Wisconsin at Lake Mills. All right, Lake Mills. What I thought was very interesting about Lake Mills, I started doing a little research here. It says on Wisconsin, fact or fiction, legend, and Lake Mills. There actually is a legend there of pyramids. Part of their logos in their city, as you guys can see, Lake Mills, City of the Pyramids. All right, City of the Pyramids. Many actual stories here and legends of the pyramids. They name a lot of their businesses with the word pyramid. Motel Pyramid, as you guys can see here. Pyramid City Run. This is the Lake Mills City Council. It says here, you see the Lake Mills, you see the 3 pyramids right under it in the water. So they know. MilwaukeeMac.com, right? Unsolved Mystery. Are there ancient underwater pyramids in Rock Lake? The Lake Mills Chamber of Commerce has promoted legend that large stone structures lie beneath Rock Lake dating back hundreds of years. The chamber claims Native Americans built pyramids in a valley hoping to end a drought, and the gods responded by filling the valley with water. The modern history of that legend began in the early 20th century when a variety of divers and local fishermen reported, that's what we just read, seeing structures in the lake that looked man-made. All right, so it wasn't just one person. We just read one account, but it's actually a big thing over there. The Seattle Times, it says here, Town Treasures, Legend of Pyramids Under Rock Lake. All right, so it's actually a thing. So yeah, an ancient pyramid was found there and it's still there. And they're just not reporting or talking about it. They say, no, it's not real, it's not man-made. All right, continuing. It says here, paved by ancients. Kansas, 1895, I believe. Prehistoric stone roadway in California. Ancient mining camp. Age indicated by the growth of large trees upon it. You understand, there's trees growing on this one too, just like in the one in Mississippi. Traced to a wall of a well-executed masonry. Another wall. Does it connect with the one in Mississippi? They were saying it connects with the one in China. So this is actually on the way, right? California. Well-executed masonry. Surrounding an arrastro mill, a keystone, 19 stone homes. Inscription deciphered. Says here, paved by ancients. Discovery of a remarkable prehistoric road in California. Some weeks ago, a local newspaper reported interesting discoveries made on the north slope of San Miguel Mountain by Herman C. Cook and C.A. Favell, 2 mining prospectors. The discoveries comprising a prehistoric stone roadway, a number of mining tools, and unmistakable traces of an ancient mining camp. The age of the roadway was indicated by the growth upon it of large trees. Right, trees growing on this large. This is an old road. What were believed to be the dumps of 1 or perhaps 2 mines were also found. All right, ancient mines and chunks of ore which carried gold and silver were picked up there. All right, they were doing this. That gold rush in the 1800s. No, the ancients were already doing this in America and California. This is what they're telling you right here. The prospectors have been very reserved in speaking of their discovery. They arrived here a few days ago, however, and it has leaked out that it is of much greater interest than at first supposed. The stone-paved road was traced to a wall of solid and well-executed masonry. This was found to surround an enclosure now filled with debris, but which is believed to be an old arrastra. A portion of the floor is there, and fragments of crushing stone were found. Near this astra was discovered the mouth of a tunnel filled with debris. This is now being cleaned out. A keystone surmounted the arch at the entrance, and the walls are well defined, though somewhat disintegrated. In the vicinity are also traceable the foundations of no less than 19 small houses and a flat stone bearing an inscription which has not been deciphered. Is thought to mark the location of the tunnel, another tunnel, and the pushing of the investigation into the mountain will lead to more interesting discoveries than any yet made bearing on the life of ancient man in this region, San Diego, California. All right, this is very deep, and again, they didn't do no further studies or anything, and they didn't let none of us know. They reported in these newspapers these things, and they never really followed up on these things because it doesn't fit their historical narratives. It doesn't fit the whole Indians were savages, manifest destiny agenda. All right, and we continue. It says here, the old-time San Diego giant, California, 1904. 8 foot 4 inches mummy found in San Diego. All right, so still in San Diego, you know, they found that wall and that ancient tunnel and road there that was very old. This is just more correlation here. It says Fred Rawson's mummy. Berkeley's deputy marshal buys the old-time San Diego giant. Professor Hudson's lecture on Walt Whitman's State Viticultural Commission apparatus. Berkeley, California, January 24. Deputy Marshal Fred Rawson has purchased a gigantic mummy, 8 feet 4 inches in height, found at San Diego last year, and he proposes to travel with it through California as soon as it reaches Berkeley. The mummy is now in Washington, where the previous owners have been for some time trying to sell it to the Smithsonian Institution. The only thing that stood in the way of a sale was the price, and upon this the owners and the institution could not agree. Rawson, who is a professional taxidermist and a lover of curios, watched the progress of the deal, and when he found that there was a difficulty, stepped in and purchased the skeleton of the freak. Rawson has a small fortune invested in curiosities and rare specimens from various sections of the globe, and he proposes to put the best of these into a wagon with the bones of the giant and traverse California in real dime museum on wheels style. He expects that the mummy will reach California in May. All right, mummy, a giant mummy found in California, right in San Diego. And they were just, you know, selling it, moving it around like nothing. Smithsonian, they didn't even want it. They're like, no, we don't want to bring that here. That's gonna expose our false history. Smithsonian is known for hiding these things, right? Getting rid of them. But again, another 8-foot giant, that's just like we read earlier. And mummies, right? The oldest mummies in the world are actually from America. They're not from over there, Africa or the Middle East or wherever they're saying it. It's Chinchorro mummies. We've done the video, you know, down in Chile and Peru. Oldest mummies in the world. So they found a mummy here. They're not telling us how old this mummy is. But we're going to keep reading some more discoveries here in San Diego. Let's go to the next report. All right, so we continue. It says here, beneath LA, San Francisco, and San Diego, buried cities. From this conclusion must not be drawn that the remainder of America is not also a venerable antiquity, because the reverse is the truth. Still, California, from her mountain peaks, has patiently seen, with ever watchful eye, the land to the east of her gradually rise, shaken the salt sea from her back, while the west and south volcanic action has shaken the earth into fragments until it has become a prey to the devouring water, leaving the present state as the only monument in this part of the country to testify to the ancient grandeur of the land and the high civilization to which it gave birth. All right, the high civilization that it gave birth. They're talking about America, right? Beneath the soil of California is hidden vast wealth. All right, listen. We've already gone over the skeleton remains they found here, the oldest humans, right? We've already gone over the Calavera skull and all these other findings in California, right? This ancient land, this vast wealth hidden underneath, right? Much greater indeed than any of her rich mines have ever yet produced, while beneath the foundations of her cities, more especially of San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego. All right, listen to this. Beneath these cities, right, these major cities of California, beneath them, this is a news report, right? He buried the remains of mighty cities. There was mighty cities right under these cities. There's other cities down there. Reset, it would not be wise, even if we knew the exact locations of this deeply hidden treasure, to point out its probable locality. It would not be wise, even if we knew the exact location of this deeply hidden treasure, to point out its probable locality. Such is the natural cupidity of mankind that only strife and possibly bloodshed could follow the public possession of such knowledge, especially at this stage of our evolution, when selfishness and greed are too often the mainsprings of human action. No harm can be done, however, in reciting the facts, as we are on the verge of important discoveries, it is said, which will establish the truth of these statements beyond the shadow of a doubt, all right? What was about to be discovered about America, they hid it. They did the reset, they hid it. The World Fair is like, nope, manifest destiny, nope, you all from Africa, you guys get it. So, all this was being hidden, it's still being hidden. Right? All this discoveries, we're gonna keep going over it. This is the brothers page with all these newspaper clips. We're gonna read more and more, from books, primary sources, what they were finding here in America.
I want to show you some things that I don't think you even knew existed. It goes against everything Manifest Destiny teaches about Native Americans. And I want you to know this part of our history because people erased it, and we'll get to that later on in the program. Erased it intentionally. Erased it intentionally. That's an important part of it. America's history didn't begin with Christopher Columbus came over. There were ancient cities with advanced architectures all across North America. Did you know that? Hundreds of years before Columbus came. You always think, oh, the Indians, they didn't scar the land. No, not true. These were cities as large as any in the world at the time. London or Rome, they were metropolises. Archaeologists say they have found evidence of 200,000 actual cities of mound-like structures all across North America that were here long before Columbus. But we don't know anything about them. Why? Why?
Why would so many people be covering up the evidence of earlier civilizations in the Americas? I think some people have called it a colonial cover-up, a colonial archaeological conspiracy.
There's two sides to this story. In one side of the story is the way America was conquered by basically Anglo-Saxons, and in that conquest of the Americas, what they confronted was an indigenous people who had inhabited that realm for tens of thousands of years, we now know. And the first thing they did was to attempt to exterminate them physically, to get them out of the way. And when that became objectionable, the next measure was to exterminate their culture, to rub it out, to pour scorn upon it, to say that it was of no value, that in a sense the absurd and monstrous argument was that the Native Americans deserved what was done to them because they were supposedly not capable of any high culture. We now know that that's completely untrue, and that was a conspiracy. That was a conspiracy to destroy Native American culture and thus to legitimize the conquest and the massive theft of land. And it carried on into the 20th century with the so-called boarding schools, where Native American children, almost all of them, were taken away from their families.
All right, so quickly I want to read from this newspaper article that I found. It was from it says here, the Kansas City Journal, from Monday, October the 12th, 1896. And the title is Prehistoric Man, the Human Race and Its Dispersions. How long has the earth been people, and when and where was the beginning? After correlating all data that have been made public to the present time, all right, the conclusion is unavoidable that the oldest civilization was in the Yucatan and Central America. Future discoveries may change this conclusion. It seems that Egypt was first peopled by immigrants from the Yucatan. Say what? It seems that Egypt was first peopled by the immigrants from Yucatan. Space will allow only a few facts that clearly indicate the truth of this assertion. First, the pyramids of Yucatan are some of them much larger than any found in Egypt. All right, much larger than any found in Egypt. That of Cheops, not accepted. All right, and Giza. Second, the pyramids of Egypt bear structural evidence of having been modeled on those of Yucatan, notably of the one at Coloma, which covers 23 acres. Third, the early Egyptians and the Mayas of Yucatan had the same system of reckoning time, but the Mayas developed a system that was far superior. Again, we got that in the Foreign Quarterly Review, right? Far superior or excelled, in which antedates that of Egypt, is older than Egypt. All right? Fourth, the Mayas manufactured cement that was of the same material as that of ancient Egypt. Fifth, the architecture of Yucatan is of the same general type as that of an ancient Egypt, but it is finer and seems to have been the model that the Egyptians attempted to imitate. They attempted to imitate our models from here, America. Six, the art of both countries, as displayed in their ceramics and architecture, is of the same type or school, that of Yucatan, being much more highly developed. All right. Again, this was an article written in the Kansas City Journal, Monday, October 12th, 1896. If you want to look it up, Prehistoric Man. They're telling you straight up in this article back in 1896 that we were the source, we were the cradle of civilization, and we went and colonized Egypt over there, just like Thoth told us in Atlantis, the Emerald Tablets, right? And the green Emerald Tablets, right? He told us he went over there, right, to the sons of Chem. All right, we got the Masonic book, right? What did it tell us? That this is the original Egypt. And when we're talking about prehistory, we're talking about America. That's the Masons. That's one of their most sacred books, Ancient Mystic Order. All right,